Hey, it's Gwen. Welcome to Home to Inspire DIY and Decor, where I create a lot of budget-friendly Dollar Tree type decor on my channel. I also do some thrift hauls and thrift flips, as well as hauls, shopping hauls, and gardening type stuff. So if you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing. And if you are a current subscriber or a returning viewer, thank you so much for your continued support. So we are doing some more fall DIYs for you for your home decor that I think you will enjoy. Taking mostly Dollar Tree supplies, I'm using one of their pumpkin decor signs. And I'm also using some wood shapes. I will only be using the ones shaped as leaves. So the bigger leaves came from the Dollar Tree, and as well as the smaller ones that came in a pack with pumpkins, but I will not be using the pumpkins. First off, I'll want to give this a good couple coats of white chalk paint. And then taking some of these unfinished leaf wood cutouts, I'm just simply placing it over my pumpkin shape and trying to figure out the placement. I did want to offset some of these leaves, so what I did was put them down where I wanted them to be and then traced them along the backside so I knew exactly where to cut. And using just a pair of scissors, just cut off where my lines were. This wood is super thin, so it's very easy to cut through with just a plain pair of scissors. And you'll want to repeat the steps for the next 2 leaves. So I decided to use a total of 3 leaves. I do favor using odd numbers in my crafting as well as in my decorating. So this is what looks visually pleasing to me. But you can use as many or as little as you choose, and also if depending on the size of your leaves and the size of your pumpkin. So then the number 3 was definitely enough for this size and for how I wanted everything to be displayed on this pumpkin sign. So after I was finished cutting off all of my leaves, once again, I did want to use some of the mini leaves right here that came in that pack. It came in a combination pack with pumpkins as well as leaves. And they do have these little like sticky pop dots in the back. But I decided to remove those because I wanted them to be as flat as the other leaves were and not to be uneven. And since this will be used as a riser, I didn't want anything that would be uneven. So that way anything I placed over it would sort of sit flat. So that was the thought process behind what I was doing. First things first is to paint my mini leaves in this Queen Bee color by DIY. Now you can use any type or color of paint that you choose to fit your, fall decor or style in your home. But I thought that that was a nice fall color. I will be also painting the bigger leaves, but I decided to dry brush some mineral, or actually this was sandstone chalk paint using a Dollar Tree chip brush. So you just lightly dip your brush into the paint, offload it a little bit, and then just with a gentle hand glide it over your, pumpkin sign. And then taking some of Java color chalk paint by Home Decor, I just gave those leaves a good couple coats. And since this is raw wood, it does tend to soak up the paint color rather well. So it did take a couple good coats. Now, if you wanted, less saturation and more of a lighter coat, then just stick with the 1 coat. It's all up to you. Next thing I did after all the paint was dry was to hot glue all my pieces down over my what we'll be calling a riser. So simply taking some hot glue, just adhered all my pieces over this pumpkin wood riser. Now you can use this riser to elevate any home decor or anything that you have in your home. Like if you wanted to use it on a table or shelf, anything that you want to elevate, just add a little bit more height or a little bit more of a decorative element to, or something that you want to sort of showcase. A riser is good for that reason. So here I just did my own spin to a traditional type of riser. Usually risers tend to be flat and one-dimensional, just painted or maybe stenciled or, use some rub-on transfers and that sort of thing, but I decided to use some of these wood cutouts. I thought that would make it a lot more interesting, and again, adding more of that dimension to the piece. And if you didn't want to use this as a riser, you can also lean this up against a shelf or anything, and it could also be just a decorative piece. So it's really up to you. But you will see shortly that I will be adding some feet to this, because what is a riser without feet, right? The whole point is to elevate something off of the table, make it a little bit higher than the rest of the items that you're decorating with. So of course I'm going to add feet to this, but before doing so, I did add some jute twine to wrap that stem, and then finishing it off with the same Java colored chalk paint at the top. I also did some more dry brushing to the sides just to finish off the look and make everything more cohesive. Now, as you see here, I did take a piece of scrap wood that I had in my stash and just cut that down the middle. Now, it didn't come out even, but I'm not concerned about that because we won't really be seeing the bottom side. But if you're concerned with, symmetry and, making everything perfect, then be a lot more careful than I was in cutting your pieces. But you can use anything to elevate your project. But I felt like this piece of wood was perfect because it was just the right width that this needed for stability. Now, a lot of people would opt to use like little wood feet or caps or anything like that you can find from like Hobby Lobby or Walmart. Depending on the size, you might need more than two. You might need like four to balance it out. And again, depending on what you plan on placing on your riser is what's really going to be important in what you choose to elevate your piece, because you do want it to be stable and you want it to hold up. So, at the end of the day, just choose what suits you. So the last finishing touch here was to add a ribbon, of course, and just taking a cream colored jute twine. This came from Hobby Lobby. This is from their wedding section. I just made a simple shoestring bow and hot glued that to the stem. And here you have it, a simple and very cute decorative wood riser. And in this case, I will be using it as a candle riser, and it's perfect for fall. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope you guys like this one. Moving right along to DIY number 2, I am making another riser, surprise, surprise. This time though, it's going to be a longer piece and it's going to be more on the neutral side. However, you still can use it for fall, but you can definitely keep it out all year long, which is perfect for farmhouse and French farmhouse decorating. It will lean more towards the French farmhouse look, so hopefully you enjoy this DIY. I'm taking 2 more of those pumpkin decor from Dollartree and removing all of the paper and embellishments that came with it. And it's easy to remove. Just use some heat and a spatula or spackling tool. And if that doesn't work, if you have like a sander, you can use that to help you out, which is exactly what I did, and it sped up the process. I'm also using 2 of these drawer boxes from Dollar Tree and removing those little label or book plates that's attached to the front with a mini screwdriver. Then just remove all of your labels and whatnot, and you don't have to do this, but I like to just remove all of those stickers and things, although it will be at the bottom and will not be noticeable. You'll also want to take a piece of either a wood, like a large popsicle stick. Walmart does carry them. I could not find mine, so I did opt to use a wooden stake or a plant stake marker. I'm not sure if I'm calling it the correct thing, but basically get yourself a thin piece of wood and you're going to be using that to sort of help attach these pieces together. So first things first is to flip your pumpkins over to the back side and trace out those boxes. And the reason for this is to ensure that you are gluing your boxes evenly on each side, because at the end of the day, you'll want this to be balanced and it will be visible in the finished look. So you don't want one to be off center or off kilter. So before assembling all of my pieces, I did give these 2 pumpkins a good couple coats of this color, Skeleton Key. It's by DIY. It's a really pretty bluish gray color. and it does dry lighter. So I did have to cover this with 2 coats just to make sure that everything was even and it covered up any, of the base color and whatnot. Once that was dry, I went ahead and flipped it over. So I took some of this home decor wood tint and just gave this piece of stick a good cover just so that it will be a little bit more camouflaged. Even though it's underneath, it sticks out like a sore thumb if you don't paint it, because it's like that natural finish. So once that part was done, I went ahead and attached my 2 pieces together using a combination of Gorilla Wood glue as well as hot glue for that instant hold. So the Gorilla Wood glue is for long-term adhesion, a stronger bond, and the hot glue is good for attaching your pieces so that they instantly bond, while the more permanent glue sets in. And here I'm just taking more of that same skeleton key color and just dabbing it onto the middle where the seams are, where the 2 pumpkins meet, because it did have a slight gap. You can also use spackling or caulking if you wanted to fill in those gaps, but I found that using some paint just to fill it in worked just fine. So once the 2 pieces were attached, I went ahead and hot glued that piece of wood underneath. And again, that's just to ensure a stronger bond between the 2 pumpkins. And then I wanted to attach these 2 feet, if you will, to my riser. So I'm taking more wood glue as well as hot glue and then just placing them where I made my outlines. And this is where those outlines come in handy, because you'll know exactly where to glue your pieces and you don't have to second guess yourself. Typically, I do like to eyeball a lot of things and I don't like to measure so much, but in this instance, it is wise if you do exactly what I did. So just to rough this up a bit, I took my sanding sponge or sanding block and just, sand it off a little bit in different areas. I decided that this needed some type of striping. So I used my stencil and these various types and sizes of this really cute flower sack striping. I think that's what you call it. And they come in these various patterns and sizes. Some are wider, some are thinner. They have different variations to them. So I chose the one that I thought would suit this riser. And with the help of some painter's tape, I just attached the stencil down and using my other hand just to sort of apply pressure so that, I'm trying to avoid bleed through. It didn't work 100% because you will see shortly once I lift this that there was a slight bleed through, but not to worry, I can fix that with some more paint and just dabbing it onto the areas where it bled. So you'll just want to take your stencil and run it across, trying to make sure that the lines meet. In some points, I was a little bit off, but again, this is more of a distressed rustic piece, so it doesn't bother me much. And I will also be roughing this up a bit more with more sanding and making those lines less pronounced and more distressed. So having these slight imperfections is nothing to worry about if you're going for more of a rustic look. So here I'm just taking my sanding block and just rubbing it across the striping. And I really like that look that it gives, that really nice distressed look. Then taking some rub-on transfers, I believe this is from the Redesign brand, I decided to go with a larger piece such as that one that has the wording homemade on it. I thought that was pretty cute and the right size as a center or focal point to this riser. So that was going to be my focal point and it's going to be right dead center. I knew I wanted to also add a few more to the corners, so I chose that one that says flowers as well as a bee. So these rub-on transfers do come with a stick, and that's just a way for you to burnish your transfers onto your project. But you can use anything that you have on hand. You can use a credit card. If you have a Cricut tool, you know, that you can also use that to rub on or burnish your transfers. This one took a little bit of elbow grease. I'm not sure if it was because of the transfer itself or because of the paint underneath, but I did have to make several passes over the same areas just for it to remove from the backing. But ultimately it came out just fine, and I really adore how it's looking, and it's pairs really well with the color of the background as well as that flower sack or green sack stripe. You'll have to let me know in the comments what you think of this one. I took some of this top coat as well. It's called Big Top, and it's by DIY, and just gave this a good couple coats. And by doing this, it just protects your paint from reactivating, because I did use that DIY paint. And it also protects the transfer from lifting. And I really love how that one came out. I hope you guys liked it too. Moving right along to this third DIY, I'm making a cute garland using some of these Dollartree word signs. It says gather. Now, if you've watched my previous DIYs, I did use the same exact unfinished wood sign for a different type of sign that I created, and it also came out super cute. It was very farmhouse, but this time I wanted to use this to create a garland. So if you haven't checked out my previous videos, I would highly suggest that you go through all of my past projects. I think you would really enjoy them. So taking some white chalk paint, I just gave these wood pieces a good coat, making sure that you get the edges as well, because it will be visible when you hang it on your garland. And try to avoid the areas in the middle where the letters are, because the paint tends to pull in those areas. So if that does happen to you, you can just take something that's sharp or pokey and just sort of run it through where the paint pulled in those lettering, and you know, that fixes that problem. So again, since this will be visible, I decided to also paint the backside. Now, if you decided for yourself that that was a necessary step, then just forego that step. But for me, I do like to finish off my projects, whether it be the front, back, side. I just like to know that it looks good from all angles. So taking one of these wood bead strands from Dollar Tree, I decided to paint or stain them using the same home decor wood tint that I used previously. And I took a wipe and just dipped it into the wood tint, and then, you know, rubbed them over all of the beads. Now, in the beginning, I was thinking I could just keep all the beads attached to the original string that it came on. But as I was working through it and staining all the pieces, I found that the string was starting to unravel, which was pretty weird. They just started like shedding and coming apart. So I figured I have to start fresh, and I had to remove it from the original twine that it came on and put it on a whole new piece. In this case, I decided to use the light cream colored jute twine. I strung all the beads onto that twine, making sure that I had the right amount of length that I needed to create like an even garland. So here you see me making holes on these little wood pieces using my crocodile tool. And this is so that I am able to hang or tie these letters to the bead garland. My plan was to have the wording sort of draped across this bead garland for added interest, and I wanted to space them out, in a way that was going to look good. So I thought that by counting out about 5 beads in between was the perfect distance. But here you see me tying a double knot using the white or the off-white jute string through the holes and just knotting it through. And once all that part was done, you'll see that I will be attaching or tying those to the main garland. So I did that with all of the letters. So this is the part where I'm sort of counting out the beads and the spacing and making sure that I attach all of this letters to the appropriate areas. Now, since these letters are on the smaller side, I didn't want them to be too far apart, or that might look a little bit, not unbalanced, but it might look weird because, the pieces are so small. So had I used like larger lettering or larger pieces, I would have been able to get away with spreading them out a little bit more. But since this was on the smaller scale, I did have to kind of keep it in pretty close proximity from each other. So I thought that this looked visually pleasing. And it's always a good idea when you're doing this type of thing to sort of take a step back and kind of look at your project before you actually permanently attach anything. So if you're not sure of how something's going to look, you might want to just sort of test it out and then kind of see if, it's going the direction that you like. So the next step is to add some more embellishments. I took this pack of leaves and I've had this in my stash. I believe these were from Hobby Lobby maybe a year ago. And they came in a variety of both burlap and buffalo check pattern. So I decided to use both and just sort of alternate the leaf patterns. And by using that buffalo check pattern, it just sort of breaks up like the monotone look and, just gives it a little bit more color. Now, if you wanted more, neutral, keep it neutral and everything, you can just keep it with burlap. That would be a nice look as well. But I did like the contrast between the burlap and the buffalo check and the alternating pattern. If you have different colored leaves, more traditional colors, fall colors, oranges, greens, that sort of thing, then go with what you like and that fits your aesthetic. At the end of the day, this is your DIY and it has to be something that you enjoy having in your home. But I do love the end result of this garland. It's super simple, very easy, quick, and it looks fabulous on a mantle just like this. And I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Let's take a final look at all of the DIYs from this video. I truly appreciate each and every one of you, especially to my subscribers and viewers. Again, if you are new, please consider subscribing. Hit that notification bell so that YouTube can notify you every time I upload a new video. Please leave me a comment as well. That does help my channel to grow and for YouTube to notice my channel and to push it out for others to enjoy. Thanks again for watching. You guys are the best. I hope to see you in my next one. Take care.